extremely.
I think for me, like coming to terms with my queerness was actually first like confronting racism and confronting that, because I think especially like, as I came to Australia when I was 2. I like, you know, I'm from Pakistan, my family's Muslim, and I think like, 2 decades of Islamophobia actually really homogenized these ideas of what I thought my culture was. And I think it's like, for me, like going through like my own like familial history, or going through like the radical history that exists
which I also
in
think
like,
contributes to my queerness. But I mean, to try and summarize it, to try and make it more concise, I intentionally try and exist through creative means of expression, which, if we're talking about queerness as an action, if we're talking about queering life, my art is about strangeness, my art is about disruption, my art is inherently doing the queerness. So, when I engage with people, I make sure to actively listen. I think that in and of itself is pretty queer. That's pretty far from what is broadly accepted. I think it's queer to the ways that I I eat. I eat mostly the exact same meal every day because it's easy and it works for me, and I don't feel the pressure to perform things that don't actually need to be performed, and I don't perform things that don't bring me joy. I think that is really queer. I'm like dedicated to living a life that's actually enjoyable, it's art, to living a life creativity, and it's just allowing yourself to appreciate the fact that there are infinite possibilities, infinite modes of connection.
I think body sensation. When I was like standing at the lights going to uni, and I just left my old job at our friendships where I had this friendship means
I think that empathy in the first,
a lot to me.
my first.
I think friendship, the first thing that comes to my mind. Clearly, friendship, love isn't talked about as the number one type of intimacy. And for me, it is the number one type of intimacy. Like, after you've known each other for so long, you have a funny kind of way of speaking, or your body's moving, or like carefreeness about what you look like, or just complete joy, just complete joy. Whereas with other people, I may be a bit more reserved, or like holding myself in a different way, With my best friends, I really am so raw, and I don't even think I'm that raw with myself,
Moment this summer where Shiri and I, my sibling and I, had just started being really close and committed to each other, and like we'd had a conversation. Our relationship wasn't great, and then we both came out as queer, and they really sort of like held my hand and led me through that. Anyway, our relationship was just kind of growing super strong, and we were in a really nice communicative place, and then we met these 3 other people, and the 5 of us, or the 6 of us together, had like the most incredible summer where we were just like going to so many different parties every weekend.
When we first started being non-monogamous in the Netherlands, we'd be at parties, and I could see that Bella and one of our friends, Phoebe, were really into each other, and I would just watch their interactions and just like have this like such powerful loving connection with Bella while she's literally like making out with one of her best friends. and just
Even
like
though our primary
experiencing
mode
pure
of
like
connection was
joy
definitely conversation,
from like
it was
compersion
beyond
from Bella
conversation.
having
It was
those
the energy that the
experiences with
conversation
another woman
held.
that
So it wasn't about the
will
words, it
never
wasn't about the
be
sentences,
same
it
as
wasn't
an
about the
experience with
sounds
another
coming
cis
out of our
man.
mouths.
So,
It was about the impact and the openness that we all had to see the best in each other, and to the willingness that we had to connect meant that we could surpass conversation and just sit in each other's presence and feel that energy. And I mean, I don't think it's any coincidence that all 6 of us were queer people, you know, all 6 of us identified as some kind of queer. And all 6 of us experienced things like moments that we wouldn't have otherwise if we weren't together. And I think there was such a deep gratitude for that connection.
I enter this secret, it feels sacred, like a secret little world. Like me and Rye just go into like this little world when we're alone. And I think a lot of that is guided by breath and skin, because, you know, we can be talking about something really meaningful, something really random, not talking at all, or the quality of conversation could be like not even that good, like just nothing of note. But we're still in that secret little world, like the energy isn't broken. We're still making space together, and I think that's all of the breathing and skin and contact that like pulls energy into that space and communicates even when we're not talking. And that is sensual for us. I feel that it's very sensual. We read each other's bodies and communicate with our bodies. And, you know, whether it's sexual or not, maybe part of it that is really special is that energy persists without sexual meaning being placed on it. And yeah, skin, breath, guiding that space and creating that cocoon of energy.
And I think that empathy, in the first kind of, I guess my first take off that is like, empathy is a kind of external embodiment in a way. It's like it's an imagination in that sense, and it's something that you've understood about someone, and it's almost like being able to position yourself within this person, which you understand to think in a certain way, to feel in a certain way. And that's not just what they say to you, it's how they react. And in a very intimate setting, you know, you understand how certain touches and breaths and movements and context and feelings, like all that stuff, gives you this immense, sometimes not even conscious, but immense understanding of someone. And an understanding of kind of their experiencing. And I think the space between words, like the first thing that's so important to that is that empathy. And it's also observation, I think. I think it's being able to look at someone before you even speak, and being able to see in, you know, the slight twitch of their eyes, or the flaring of their nostrils, or, you know, the flush of their cheeks. Like, all of that stuff tells you things. You know, the tempo of their breath, and the heat of their palms, and the swell of their chest. All those things are things which communicate something to you.
You know, picture yourself on the dance floor of a warehouse, everything's smoky and you can hardly breathe, you're dripping in sweat, your eyes are closed, you're just in the rhythm. You open your eyes and you make eye contact with some strange person on the other side of the room, and just for that moment, you are so intimately connected, though it is fleeting and temporary and might not hold the weight that is typically assigned to an intimate relationship. That moment, at least for me, is one of heightened intimacy, because you're both there vulnerably expressing yourselves through movement, meeting on the common ground of rhythm and music, and then connecting through visual recognition, through perception of each other. I love that shit, whether it's on the dance floor or in the supermarket or you know, at the park, wherever, having those little bleeping moments, those fluid moments of connection that exist, you know, beyond words and beyond what is typically accepted.
The first thing that comes to my mind, that it just immediately comes to me, is breath, and how breath choreographs that space, and it brings in the connection, like the broader connection that is being orchestrated by words, but is not limited to words. Words are just one way that we orchestrate the connection or the energy that we're feeling. And so, like, just being really conscious, every breath that I take, every pause between words is speaking like a different meaning, or like it's like communicating meaning.
I just remember always being like very, like, I always want to hold my friends very close to me. I always want to like cuddle, and like it's such, I read this thing, you know, at the back of a book once, and it was like, you know, like you can have sex with anyone, but you can't fall asleep next to anyone. And I think ever since, like, you know, that came into my life, I was like, that's really it. And I think for me, it's like embodying queerness is like not it's really not being afraid to like love someone with the full force that, like, you know, like people deserve, and you yourself deserve to like actually just give and receive that. And like, yeah, a really simple thing is for me to constantly be like, people need to be fully held, and to like, you know, feel really safe and comfortable around you. And I think the reason I say it took me a while to fully understand is because I think for a long time, often my friends would, I think, like misread like me trying to communicate or express something.
A really milky, warm, endless blanket on my face. Like totally devoid of like a room of, just like a room. There's nothing else when I'm having a chat or watching Broad City with my friends, you know. There's nowhere else I want to be.
I think like my feelings and like my reading of like social situations and stuff is like, I'm not gonna like not hold you and not be close to you because whatever society says to me that if I touch you right now, or if I like express how much I want to like hold you right now, it's going to be like perceived in a certain way. And it's like, no, I'm going to like put that all behind me and just know that like I feel the most myself when I can like, you know, express that love exactly in its like true form in that moment. And like that to me is like, you know, that's part of like a branch of understanding like a lot of sexual intimacy as well. But it's like prior to that, it's like almost the basics of, I'm like, wow, at some point people just grew up and like, what, like literally like you, like I see some of my male friends not hug each other, and you know, that breaks my heart. I'm like, you're so deprived or like, I don't know. And it's like, when did we think like we had to stop holding each other? Like, at any point. And I think, I don't know, I think that's really basic, but I think that's just the fundamentals of like care and love, of like really being willing to like, yeah, just hold each other in full force.
I think that's interesting to look at. And then what we were saying about backs, and backs being a site of oppression and eroticism. It's really interesting.
It's so fun.
But you know what else I think? I actually just want to say brushing teeth sounds are really sensual as well. They're such an intimate thing to hear someone do, or like someone that you've had sex with, and then they're literally scrubbing. Well, they're just like scrubbing your cum out of their mouth the next morning. Like when you've had shared beautiful, soft, gentle space with someone, and then you move abruptly into the like cleaning, maintaining, logistic. Like I'm literally just got your semen in my mouth, and I'm now scrubbing my tongue. Hours later, but still, and like the sound of hearing your lover do, I just feel like it's funny.
And sometimes it does end in crying for an unexpected, all of a sudden you're in the middle of it and you're like just overcome with, and it's kind of, that is an interesting thing. Like there's a lot of fun and excitement and euphoria in exploring that, but it also, you know, does bring up unexpected things of like all of a sudden, yeah, like you were saying, like we have to stop because, you know, maybe I'm now sobbing because it's brought up. I think it explores a lot more of your personality and sexuality, because it feels like you're bringing all of that into the sex rather than just the physical act of the sex, which then, yeah, can just bring up like huh, I think this is going to come up, or I didn't even expect it.
Down a single chat. But it's actually, you know, maybe the secret here is that brushing teeth goop is the synthesis of all queer eroticism, because in the goop that is chat are body fluids, time, tastes, sensations, dehydrations. It's all in there. Maybe that's the secret. The most erotic fluid is the post brush spit goop. That's so chat.
Queerness is undefined. And queerness only really exists, not in all cases, but mostly only exists in intimacy between people. And that defines it, right? It defines it by that moment, and it's different to heterosexuality or more rigid forms of sexuality in that sense. You know, in those sort of more rigid forms, there's a certain type of choreography that we've inherited that kind of like is a channel through which the intimacy then goes. The intimacy is a secondary thing in a sense, whereas queerness has to be has to come through that intimacy. It has to come through that really direct connection to someone. And I think queer eroticism in that sense is so much more like this choreography of two people. In both of their embodiments, and also in both of their embodiments of the other person in that like empathic way.
You know, I queer walking to the bus stop by dancing in public, and filming myself and then posting it on Instagram. You know, I queer going to the shops by, again, kind of just like dancing through the aisles and stuff. I'm realizing that I like to do a lot of movement-based queering, which is sweet and nice. But yeah, I think queering things, being